On today's video, I'm taking you guys on a guided tour through one of the greatest guitar albums of all time, Extreme 2, Pornograffitti. Hey there kids, it's your good buddy Uncle Ben, and welcome to a brand new installment of Riff Retrospective. Now the reasons I decided to do this video this week are threefold. For one, Extreme has a new record coming out pretty soon, which I'm really excited about. And two, over on Rick Beato's channel, he just did an interview with Nuno Bettencourt that is insanely fantastic, guys. It's like 2 hours long of some of the most just legit, real musician to musician conversation I've ever heard. And three, this is literally one of the most important records I have ever come across in my entire life. I guarantee that I wouldn't be sitting here doing this, I wouldn't be playing guitar for a living if not for this album. And it all has to do with one very fateful day that I'll talk about later on in the video, and this album is a part of it. Can't wait to tell you guys about it. I'm a liar. There's actually a fourth reason I'm doing this video, because it won a poll that was voted on by my lovely and loyal Patreon community over at patreon.com/BenEllerGuitars. Sign up today for access to those polls, as well as a ton of bonus videos, downloadable tabs, and so much more good stuff for cool people like yourself. This week, everybody who supports my channel, even at just that $1 a month level, is going to get access to tabs to go along with this video. I made like 13 pages of tabs to go along with these riffs, so you'll get those, as well as a special video that I just made detailing how I created the tone that I'm using in this video. So don't delay, sign up today. Now let's talk about those tasty riffs. First track on the record is, of course, Decadence Dance, and I love how this riff spells out everything that you're about to get into on the entire album. It's very bluesy, it's very fun, it's very like major key. This one is an A flat. The entire album is tuned down a half step. And you can see that blues DNA, the same thing that fuels Eddie's playing, going on right out of the gate right here. Yet another cool rock riff that's based around just a typical blues shuffle kind of pattern. You can also learn a lot about Nuno's phrasing choices by learning that verse part. Love that riff. Now, there's a few melodic things going on here that I want to talk to you guys about. Myself and Andy would have had this conversation about what we call the true blues scale, all right? Because whenever you learn the blues scale, you learn this. Right? The minor pentatonic with the evil flat 5 in it. But real blues playing, real funky stuff, uses this other thing that people don't really acknowledge, and it's this ascending flat third to regular third. This is actually the first place that I ever learned that sound. It's from Nuno's playing. So you can see our root note here is A. The C note is a flat third. Sounds very minor, right? If you take that note up a half step, It's very major sounding. And this is something that happens all over blues music. It's never descending, unless it's Aerosmith. But anyway, in like blues lead playing and stuff, you always hear that flat third ascending to a regular third. In this style of playing, you kind of have this contradictory third that's both flat and not flat all over the place. And that is a huge part of what drives Nuno's funk metal sound. That first riff in Little Jack Horny is one of my absolute favorites in history. This tune is in drop D flat, so you're going to tune that low string down an additional step to play this thing. Okay, there's a couple things going on with this riff that make it so freaking funky. For one is that shuffle feel. That kind of swing, you know, again, very Van Halen influenced. Now this is a really rhythmic, really percussive sounding riff. And that lick right there is one that I didn't know how to play until I started making this video. So I wanted to make sure I was getting it right. It's that open A string. Then he does a hammer on, and a hammer on from nowhere for the third note in there. And then the second phrase has your open A, and then you're gonna hammer on the two notes on the low string after that. Now the second lick that he plays at the end of the riff, I also didn't know this one. Check this out. Real big, stretchy, percussive lick. It's funky, it's heavy, it's got those muted, percussive things going on. It's one of the most Nuno riffs of all time. Gear-wise for today's video, I'm going to be using a couple of my Suhr Moderns, which are just incredible guitars. This has Bareknuckle pickups, it's got the Holy Diver in the bridge, and it sounds awesome. And I've also got this modern White Tiger right here, which has a Seymour Duncan JB. Two staples of Nuno's sound through his whole career have been a Proco Rat pedal into a Marshall amp. Now I don't have an original Rat, but I do have the JHS Pack Rat, which is an absolutely awesome Rat clone that has a bunch of switchable modes, and I'm running that into this Marshall 2203X JCM 800 reissue that I just got from the fine folks over at Sweetwater. They had this one for a discounted rate because it's a demo. This is the second demo amp I've bought from Sweetwater, and it arrived in absolutely perfect condition. I think the definition of a demo is they took it out of the box to take photos of it and then put it back, and that's seriously it, because it arrived in perfect working order and condition. Buy stuff from Sweetwater using my affiliate link in the video description. And as usual, I've got all that stuff running into the UA aux. Third track on the album is When I'm President. This is a really fun tune. Right out of the gate, flat third, regular third. 6. And the flat 7 right there. Everything you need to make your own funk metal masterpiece right there in one riff. Now that's a pretty simple one, but one thing that I really like about that riff is the way that it continually evolves and sneaks into the other riffs of the song. If you'll notice, there's some kind of element of in just about every riff that's in this song. It's like its own little like DNA strand that's on every single riff in this song. One of my favorite riffs in the tune is probably the most simple one on the entire album. It's that outro section with the big AC/DC style chords. That's something that I really like about Nuno's playing, is he knows when to be really busy and technical and when it just needs to groove, and that riff is a perfect example of that. Everybody talks about the guitar solo and Get the Funk Out as it is one of the greatest in rock and roll history, but there's also some really kick-ass riffs in here to check out. So you'll notice all over the tabs, there's tons of little X's and muted notes and ghost notes and all kinds of stuff out there. Nuno's playing is so funky and loose and scratchy, and also the way they kind of like multi-track the album, where you've got a couple different layers of guitars going on that don't necessarily agree with each other all the time. God, it makes it so funky, it makes it so groovy. I feel like that's something that's missing from a lot of rock and metal playing these days. Everybody's trying to be super tight all the time and super precise, whereas Nuno's playing had that grease on it, you know? Now this tune is in the deep purple rock and roll key of G, and that first riff there, you know, again, obviously very Van Halen influence. Those little double stops, little sus chord right there, very Van Halen. And some little octaves there at the end. Again, just a really funky, nasty riff that lets that awesome bass line by Pat Badger, most rock and roll bass player name of all time, shine through. Pat's an extremely underrated bass player, by the way. He's kind of got that Michael Anthony thing going on, where he's an incredible singer and always plays exactly what you would want to hear under those busy-ass lead guitar parts, right? Again, doesn't have to be fancy. He plays to the song, and he does it really damn well. I freaking love that chorus riff. Just based around two chords, like a G to a C. And he's got that little G minor run in there, which I think is pretty cool sounding. And then when he goes to the C, this lick he plays is not how I thought that it went. And what you'll notice is that every one of these phrases starts off with this phrase, which once again is the, if we're thinking of C as our root, the flat third ascending to the regular third. There's the root right here on top too. I've got my Martin SC13E here so that I can play the album's smash ultra mega hit, More Than Words. One of the biggest ballads of the hair metal era. Now here's the thing, guys. Okay, time to show my Uncle Ben age here a little bit. You know, whenever I started playing guitar in the late 90s, you know, this was pre-YouTube. This was pre-Instagram and TikTok, and definitely pre-every slappy, tappy drum guitar solo player that exists. Hearing this was really like, what was that? What was that noise? You know, like, how is he doing that? And I think it was probably my friend Josh showed me how to do that. And again, I know everybody does this stuff now, but back then, unless you're listening to like a deep cut like Michael Hedges' album or something, this is probably the first time that you ever heard that sound. Beautiful chord progressions. There's some interesting stuff. There's like a 4 minor, that C minor in there. Just a beautiful tune. Now, ironically, that song made the band tons of money, and they followed up on the record with Money, In God We Trust, which is one of my favorite songs on the album. It's got some killer riffs and a blistering solo. Here's how it kicks off. God, I love that riff. Again, it's kind of got that major sound, but it's also got that bluesy thing going on with that ascending third. Take a shot every time I say ascending third. Don't, you will die. But anyway, it's a really, really awesome riff. And again, I love all the little variations he puts in there. That little fast picked thing that he does. Just a variation just to make that riff a little more cooler. Love that intro. That's another riff too that if you're a player that's used to looking at things very diatonically, you know, very fitting inside of the major scale, that's gonna get really confusing. Because even like right out of the gate right there, this is in the key of E, but we got this D note, and then like half of those notes, 3/4 of those notes are not in key. D, C, and the G down here, none of those are in key. But it sounds cool and it's kind of bluesy, so it doesn't really have to play by the rules of Western music theory. Again, this is why this record was so important for me. It showed me how you can break these rules and play outside of the major scale and play stuff that's not really in key. And it just adds this interesting flavor, this interesting accent to the music. I want to do that one again slowly just so everybody can follow along, because there's a lot going on there. Up next, we're going to talk about It, Some Monster, and it is too. This song is a beast, insane solo in this one, and I love the riffs. Another rocker in the deep purple key of G. This is, again, one of those riffs that's really hard to tab out. You just got to keep that right hand in motion and put as many ghost notes and stuff as you can. You'll notice, like, on the tab there's like a little X in front of almost everything. You'll notice, like, on the C that's in there, there's like a little lick in there that I'd never noticed before he plays that part. Really cool stuff that I never noticed. The whole riff is covered in little tiny details like that, like those open low E's that he sneaks in as he walks back up to the G. I could easily make an entire video devoted to just the riffs from the title track, because there are so many of them and they're all so freaking awesome. This is the first song from the record that I ever learned how to play. The verse is sick, the chorus is sick. It's got that great, like, funky breakdown in the bridge. Something like that anyways. But of course, the first things that you hear in the tune are the first two riffs, which are absolutely insane. Let's check them out. Such a killer riff, and it is so hard to explain how to play it. I remember learning it off of the tab back in the day and having a really hard time with it. And then whenever I'd have like a student that wanted to learn how to play it, kind of dreading it because it's so hard to explain how to play that riff. You've really got to keep that right hand in motion. That's what she said, to get this sounding exactly right. Like, if you put that on mute right now, it'd look like I was shaking a tambourine. Baka, 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 baka. If you play this riff like this, or with some kind of like random assortment of down and up strokes, it does not sound anything even remotely right. Even if you're playing the exact same notes and stuff, it doesn't have the same rhythmic emphasis if you don't have that 16th note funk hand thing going on. And this is part of what makes Nuno's playing so freaking groovy, is the way that he shakes that right hand to stay in time. A body in motion stays in motion, a body in rhythm stays in rhythm. This is one of Nuno's biggest secrets. And then you get that second riff, which is one of the funkiest parts on the entire record. Again, who writes riffs like that, right? Again, you have that, let's say it all in unison class, ascending third, flat third to regular third, but then all these little licks. It's so hard to play that stuff in time. It's almost like the chorus of Black Dog by Led Zepp, right? It's kind of like that, but in hyper speed. And it's so hard to, have your hand doing that funky thing and then focus to do those really tight movements that are required for parts like that. I love that harmonic lick. It's like string skipping and then just straight up the top. Cool transition. Absolutely awesome riffs in that thing. If you ever wanted to learn one song that's going to show you as like many Nuno tricks as possible, I'm going to say it's probably that one or maybe Decadence Dance, but I always have a soft spot for the title track because, like I said, it's the first one that I ever learned how to play. Susie Wants Her All Day What is another one of my favorite tracks on the record. Killer riffs, it's got a great solo. I did a lesson on the solo a couple months ago here on my channel, so be sure to scope that one out. I love that intro segment. It's kind of weird how it starts off with all the E stuff and then goes to like D minor for the actual riff itself. It's kind of strange. Now, what you really want to pay attention to with this riff is the dynamic that he has in his right hand and the way that he plays it. The way that Nuno pays such close attention to what notes are palm muted versus ones that aren't is what makes this riff sound so freaking awesome. Think about how boring this would be if it was like all palm muted. It just doesn't have that same dynamic to it as it does when he's really punching you with some of the notes and making some of them, really fat and percussive sounding. This is stuff that really helped me get my right hand muting dynamics under control. I love that old-timey peepaw blues lick that he ends that with too. I don't know if he hybrid picks it the way that I am. Maybe he does it just as string skipping with the pick. Obviously he's no stranger to that, but again, really cool stuff that you can learn and then rip off and put into your playing in other contexts too. But the real star of the show in this tune is, of course, the chorus riff. This is one of those ones, man, that whenever I'm trying out a guitar or an amp, this is one of those go-to riffs that I play every time. It's so awesome. It's so simple. I wish that I thought of stuff like this. He-Man Woman Hater is one of the sickest tunes on the entire record, and it starts off with the Flight of the Wounded Bumblebee, which is one of Nuno's signature solo pieces. I didn't include that here because it's not really a riff to me. It's a guitar solo, you know? Plus there's like millions of other breakdowns of how to play it here on YouTube, so go check those out if you're wanting to learn how to play it. The main riff of the tune is the one that I want to talk about because it's absolutely awesome. I did a video on my channel a couple of years ago all about it, so if you really want to get into the details of how to play it, be sure to check that one out. But here's how it goes. That riff is just insanely sick. All that like muted legato stuff that he's doing, it just sounds like a guy playing a riff and then he like fell down the stairs or something. I love how it sounds. It was a real bitch to try to figure out how to play that too. Because you've got that stuff. I'm pretty sure I'm picking it like he does, like down, up, pull, down, up, pull. Pretty sure. It is really hard to play consistently though. You guys heard like take 5 a second ago. And so much ascending third. And then so much of it all over the place there too. Again, it's that bluesy thing that just sneaks into every riff on this record. That's got to be the hardest thing about this, is nailing those dynamics to get the muting right on the falling down the steps lick, and then immediately snap back to that nasty pinch harmonic on the G. You got to do right after it. You'll notice that like as soon as I'm done with the rolls, I kind of slap my first finger across the strings to mute them all. That way I can do that pinch harmonic without any of those bass notes still ringing out. So if you didn't do that, you'd end up with them all kind of ringing out and groaning at you like that. It takes a lot of practice and I still don't nail it all the time, but God, what an awesome riff. And I'm going to break out the Martin again here for the last riff I want to talk about, which is the main riff in the tune, Wholehearted. Now, he played that on a 12-string guitar, and the story of what ended up on the album is absolutely insane. Again, be sure to check out Rick Beato's Nuno interview. It's fantastic. I could not believe the story of what ended up on the record. It's pretty amazing. Let's check it out. So cool. And this is another one of those riffs where again you got to use that thumb to keep that low E string muted, that way you can freely strum over here, especially parts like that. Like if you were just trying to hit those two strings like what it looks like is going on in the tab, there's no way you'll ever be able to play this with any kind of groove. You have to mute out those unused strings. So after you play that figure, which has a sneaky little triplet in there, he hits him with a little bit of footloose. That's what I always call it. You could also say that it's, you know, Funk 49. You could also say it's like Juice by Steve Vai. I could do a whole video just about what this is, because it's in so many freaking songs. And I love that run that he ends with the open strings and stuff. It's really cool. Such a cool sounding riff, man. And I love all the chords and stuff he uses in there too. Very interesting, very cool tune. Always had a soft spot for that one. So there you go, guys. Because my Patreon community voted for it, a riff by riff odyssey through one of the greatest guitar albums of all time, and one of the most important records I have ever come across in my entire life. There is one day in my musical history that really did change my entire life. And it's the day that I went to a used CD store in Morristown, Tennessee, where I'm from, same place The Evil Dead was filmed. And I bought used copies of this record and Passion and Warfare by Steve Vai on the same day. I just happened to come across both of them. And I got those records which on their own are mind-blowing enough. I mean, you got Steve Vai over here on Passion and Warfare playing the most like emotional, expressive, genre-defying guitar that's ever been recorded. And then on this, you've got Nuno doing Van Halen Part 2, you know? He's doing the funky thing, he's doing the bluesy thing, the aggressive metal thing, but it's more outwardly funky, it's more heavier than Van Halen. It blew my mind whenever I started getting into Nuno's playing. But then the thing is not only did I get those two albums on the same day that showed me so much of what could be done with the guitar in instrumental and vocal music, but I also just happened to stop by a local, it's actually a drugstore that has a corner of guitar stuff in it in Jefferson City, Tennessee. And there in that corner, they have all these old guitar magazines. And I happened to get the issues of, I think it was like Guitar Player magazine, where like Steve Vai's on the cover for Passion Warfare. He won Album of the Year, Guitar Player of the Year, I think it was. And it's also got a huge interview with Nuno, and it's got a really thorough breakdown of how to play Pornograffitti on it. So it's like, not only did I get these two mind-blowing records on the same day, I also got all this like literature that happened to go along with it, all on the same day. It's like fate was totally intervening to convince me to play guitar for the rest of my life on that day. Because without those two records and without those magazines explaining to me what those records were, I wouldn't be doing any of this stuff. So I'll always have a huge soft spot for this record, and I hope you do too. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like what you saw and want to get all the tabs to go along with it, plus that video showing you how I got that Nuno-ish tone that I was using in this video, be sure to support my channel over on my Patreon page, patreon.com/Ben Eller Guitars. Even just $1 a month will get you access to all kinds of bonus goodies over there. Thanks for liking this video and subscribing to the channel. Ring the bell over there for notifications every time I upload a new slice of fried gold. And stay tuned for the next installment of Riff Retrospective. Now go play some guitar. Less clicking, more picking.